So, New World has come out just a little over 10 minutes ago, and the player base is still basically unchanged for the last 9 minutes of its lifetime so far. Currently, it sits below the 15,000 average player count, as it has for nearly 6 months now. And this is even with the release of Season 2 and the new 10 and 20 player raids, some story stuff, but that's basically it. Compared to when it released Brimstone Sands, when the average shot up to over 60k and maintained over 20k for almost 6 months, this is a bit of a no-no, and I believe the why is very easy to understand. There is this misconception that people stay around more if there are more group activities to do, and some do, but the reverse is actually true for most players. See, every time an MMO game does a massive solo PvE content release, and the update itself isn't a total crapola with a pooberry on top, the player base responds much better. You see, the large majority of players, they want an open world filled with stuff to do alone, or with a buddy or two, but still want to feel there are a lot of players around them, so they don't feel so alone. They want to enjoy the game by themselves, but still have that sense of a living, full world they're a part of, and if and when they want some group play, like do a dungeon or an elite chess run, then fine. And here lies the crux of New World. It was initially supposed to be a full PvP MMO in an open world, a non-stop slugfest in a fantasy setting. In moving away from it before release, they had to rework a lot of it to have more PvE content, and to an extent they succeeded. But, and this is a very juicy and plump but, in the long haul and given what an MMO is supposed to be, they actually failed. Why? While there is a bit of content for you to do solo, eventually you hit the group wall. The group wall happens when your progression is solely locked behind group content, and New World has a massive group wall. For quite a few things in the game, you have to take part in group content, or that's it, you're stuck if you don't feel like it. Here are a few examples. You have to be part of a group to farm umbrals in the mutation dungeons. Same goes for PvE gear and others only available in mutation-only dungeons. And that would be fine if there was a way to get some early ward and bane gear solo, just not as good. But for the stuff you might want to grind out, there might not be an alternative. Now, I'm not saying there should be gear sets in the open world to farm to give you best-in-slot corruption gear or stuff like that. But there should be a starter corruption gear available in the world that would allow you to then farm a medium set, for example, and with that, farm a higher tier set on mutations with group play. To be more clear, here are some of the things they need to implement into the game to bring it back to life in a meaningful way for most of the player base, the solo players. Oh, and there's something for the PvPers after, too. Quick reminder to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Side effects may include watching more videos and unwillingly joining the Illuminati. AGS need to give us a way to farm umbral shards in the open world. Maybe introduce solo dungeons for it that would allow us to farm a few hundred umbral shards and beginner sets for the different wards and banes. They could even be just purples, exclusively there for an entry-level set in dealing with each type of enemy. Just thinking about it, more farmable content by yourself with different levels of endgame progression. Have a solo dungeon for each type of enemy for the different classes to go and farm early ward and bane gear, maybe a purple set like I said before, just to get them started. Available when they get to gear score 600, for example. Then have a set available in every basic dungeon to farm, every ward and bane for every class, but have it be a legendary, but with basic stuff, obviously not a best-in-slot item. And then have a mutation 6 or above specific set to farm up to, so it allows you to do a mutation level 10. You get the picture. Have different levels of progression of endgame gear, not just a few, and have the rest be craftable only. Just think about this. Having all the best in slot be only craftable is fine, but having the next best thing, maybe a perk slightly off, be again only available through crafting as well, equals the only ones getting it are big group focused players, the ones that can influence town buffs for crafting. The overall minority, as it has been proven in many, many games, many times. Having the players blocked by having to do something they absolutely do not want to do is just like real life. And we play games to escape real life. In the end, if you put your progression behind something the majority do not want to do right now, don't complain about player numbers being so low. And this is compounded by the irrelevant faction gear. How many times does the community need to say it? Give us 590 gear, unlockable when we reach level 60 perhaps, that allows us to farm and buy and tailor to our class and specific subclass. Something to get us started in the endgame with not just a bunch of crap we pick up from the world. Faction stuff is mostly irrelevant. However, AGS have the endgame locked behind group activities, just not faction group activities or any faction activity because there are no endgame faction sets or anything like it. Give us a sense of purpose within our faction. Maybe have a faction vendor to sell specific stuff to, not just meaningless quests over and over again. Maybe have a few items that drop from the world in general that you can sell to your faction vendor because he's after that type of item. Or maybe have a faction co-op event where each faction has a main base, they get attacked by corruption or something, and call upon the members of their faction to go defend it. A kind of invasion, but not to a player-owned town, just something we as a faction can do and earn some faction rewards. Speaking of vendors, we absolutely need a baseline vendor system in the game to help give meaning to the 99% junk items we pick up. In a way similar to Escape from Tarkov, perhaps, where the vendors help set a base value for everything, even if a bit low in some cases, but a base value nonetheless. So the market does not descend into the 1 cent madness for most of the loot we pick up around the world. Everything needs to have a value, even if just a little, so everything is at least a little worthwhile. We, the players, are not the only ones around. There are NPCs. They need to eat. They need supplies. They need stuff to do. Set up some vendors that we can offload some items into and that act as a benchmark for the price for certain items. Of course, rarer items or more sought-off items will go up in value overall, but for the rest, there needs to be a minimum amount we players should be able to sell for to make everything more interesting to farm. Because again, if I'm forced to farm something just to make money, and I don't want to have to farm that specific item or items, then I won't play. Every activity needs to be valued, and some just aren't. There are 2 ways you can reward players for: specific activities that yield the highest rewards, and time, which has no real reward right now. The only way to guarantee players are rewarded for their time in the game is to make sure every item and every task has some minimum value to them. And as it stands, most do not. This brings me to the zones. It is my belief that every single zone that is not 60 plus should have a 60 plus area added to them. Something to farm for endgame, or something for low level players to fear going into. Perhaps have those solo dungeons I was talking about behind a little 60 plus area. Like the Empyrean Forge, but actually make it 60 plus, for example. Also, of course I have mentioned level 60 there, have the XP you get after reaching 60 be turned into something else. Maybe like in GTA 5, that has a salary you collect from the town hall. Like, for example, you do quests and missions for the week, and on Monday, you go to the town hall and collect a paycheck for your service to the towns. Kind of like a hero salary consisting of that XP you accumulated along the week. Converted to gold, for example, in a 100-to-1 ratio or something like that. Like you get 100,000 XP during the week in that region. So now you have 1,000 gold paycheck to claim. It's not much, but it would give a little more meaning to the XP post level 60. Plus, this would have the benefit of being able to raise property tax a bit and give some more meaning and bonus to town holders. While on the topic of world areas and stuff, can we please get a drop rate chance for gear and weapons change? just make it something like this. Gray and green items should be stupid rare to drop after you gear score 600. If you are gear score 600, then drop more purple 590 plus gear score. If you're 625, then drop more legendaries. With the random rolls on item drops, with the randomized perks, 99% of the legendary drops are useless and unsellable anyway. So just drop a few more. Most of it drops with the wrong attribute entirely, and even if it has the right attribute, the perks are more often than not absolute trash. Just give a few more legendaries, the higher gear score you are, so we at least get a few scraps of umbrals from them. Oh, and for the PvP chads out there, I have a few ideas for you too. First, I would like to see a 1v1 duel arena for folks to just go and test out their builds on 1v1s against other people of all classes. Yes, we have normal duels in the world, but this would be a little bit more specific. Obviously cross realms so everybody can join fast as well. Then have an option to enter a Mortal Kombat style tournament where everyone fights each other until you have one winner. I would definitely be down for that. Also, in addition to leaderboards, hold a daily tournament and a weekly tournament, perhaps for 3v3s and Outpost Rush. Something like the top 10 trios would go on to a cup-style tournament. We could all watch in-game as a spectator and have an Outpost Rush match to the top Outpost Rush players of the week. Just like the solos and the PvEers need more to do, so do the PvPers. Look, in the end, it is my honest belief that New World is suffering from ignoring the solo player too much and actually pushing them away with having too much stuff locked behind group play. Not enough to do or contribute. I know a lot of people that end up in a situation of, okay, so now I take a break because there is nothing for me to do by myself, and then leave until the next update. And before you say it, yes, I know there are more updates coming, like the revamp of First Light, mounts, transmog, and more. But I really don't see anything about more solo content to do, like massively. Stuff to spend time in game for after we clear whatever story is coming with it. This is not something you fix by just adding another group dungeon. Oh, and please give more interesting and rewarding things for PvPers to do and work towards. We need more shit to do in the world, and the shit we do need needs to be valued at least in the time we are in game. Please, AGS, don't just cater to the group players. Look after the solos too, and you will have more players online like you did last time you gave them more to do with Brimstone Sands. Oh, and maybe address the bugs with the blunderbuss, balance the weapons so they're all viable again, and we don't have to see just meta builds everywhere. Oh, and the exploit in Genesis while they're at it, these things would be a nice start. How about yourself? What are your thoughts on the current state of New World? Is it beyond saving? Are you encouraged? Are there other things you would like to see implemented? Leave it in the comments below. Just please be respectful. Leave a like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.